Hey y'all, and welcome to the Sprinkle Factory YouTube channel where we cover everything culinary. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications. Today we're going to be making cheesy baked spaghetti and meatballs, and one of my all-time favorites, you guys, buttery garlic knots. Let's get right into it. So what we're going to start with is our fresh ingredients for our sauce, and we have the ingredients listed down below. So we have bell peppers, garlic, onions, fresh tomatoes, and we have the Italian style stewed tomatoes. We're going to use two 14-ounce cans of that as well. So let's get started with the vegetables. In a pot over medium-high heat, we're going to start with a tablespoon of butter. We're going to add all the veggies in at a time, and we're going to get them nice and seared, and we're going to get them nice and translucent and tender. Of course, as with everything, you want to make sure that you season your dish in layers. We're going to use our Just a Sprinkle all-purpose seasoning, and of course, this is the only seasoning you're going to need for the entire recipe. So we're going to get this cooked up, you guys. Again, we want to get the vegetables nice and tender, and if you could smell this, oh my God. It's like a pot full of an entire flavor party. It smells so delicious. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to prepare our sausages. Now, when we cook our Italian sausages, you want to make sure that we remove that casing because it's not very good texture-wise in this sauce. So as you saw, I split the sausage down the center, then cut all the way through, just kind of nipped at the skin, and we're going to remove the skin from each of the sausages. Now, once our vegetables get nice and tender, and we're concentrating the flavor of each ingredient, and we're also marrying them together so they become one delicious flavor, we want to start adding in our ground beef. So what I'm using is 2 1/4 pounds of ground beef. We're making a lot of sauce, you guys, so we need a lot of meat. As with everything, and I'm going to continue to tell you guys this because it's very, very important to build the layers of flavor in everything you make. So we're also going to go ahead and season our ground beef with our Just a Sprinkle all-purpose seasoning. And after that's done, we have all of our sausages prepared. So we're going to take them from the cutting board and add them right into the pot. One of the tools I have in my kitchen is I don't really know the name of it, but it's from Pampered Chef, and it's like a meat, okay, let's think logical here. I don't want to say meat masher, we're not going to say that, but it's a meat separator, so it's going to chop your meat, it's going to break your meat down, so you don't have all those big pieces of meat, and you're not sitting there stabbing at it with a spatula forever to get it to the size that you want. So once we do this, we're going to get it nice and small. We're going to let that continue to brown. So here we have our meat sauce. So we have a sauce flavor with meat. We have our chunky garden sauce. And we have our 2 cans of the Italian stewed tomatoes. We have 2 fresh basil leaves and a fresh tomato that we've roughly chopped. And of course, the basil and the fresh tomato is going to give freshness and body to our sauce. So as you can see, guys, all of those veggies, the meat, the seasonings, all of them are literally just hanging out in that pot of a flavor party. And we're just going to add everything in there as far as the sauces. So it doesn't matter which order you go in, as long as you get it all in there. Now, something that people commonly debate about is if sugar should go in spaghetti. Absolutely, you guys. We're not putting sugar in the spaghetti to make it sweet. We're putting sugar in the spaghetti to cut the tartness of the tomatoes. As you see, we added our sugar. We're going to sprinkle with a little bit of Just a Sprinkle. Put the lid on. Let it simmer on medium heat for about 30 minutes. Now let's get started with our meatballs, you guys. I know you see a lot of ingredients, but as always, I'll put the measurements at the bottom of the screen. We're going to start with our sausage and our ground beef. We're going to add our 1/2 cup of Italian style breadcrumbs. That's very important. We are going to add our 1/2 of chopped onion and of course our Parmesan cheese. We're going to go ahead and add our egg, which is going to combine with the breadcrumbs and keep these binded together. Yes, we're going to season them with our all-purpose Just a Sprinkle seasoning. We're going to get our hands in there, guys. You can use a spoon, but honestly, the best tools that you have in the kitchen are your hands. So put some gloves on, get down and dirty with this. Make sure you get everything kneaded together and everything is combined. Now, I have a handy dandy scooper that I'm going to scoop these meatballs out with. However, if you don't have a scooper, just use about 2 tablespoons of the meat. And honestly, you can make these as big or as small as you want. They are your meatballs, so make them the way that you want them. So once we scoop it out, we're going to roll them because I don't know about you guys, but I definitely don't want flat meatballs on one side. So I'm going to roll them around and we're just going to continue to get this done until we've used up all of our ground beef. Just like that. All right, guys. So what I've done is I've had a pot of water on the stove boiling, and we want to make sure that we put the pasta in there. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of salt and just cook the pasta according to the package directions. The next thing that we're going to get started is we're going to get started with the meatballs. So we have a skillet here on medium-high heat. We're going to get them sizzling, get everybody in the pan so that you can cook them all at once. And we're just going to allow them to brown. You want to get a nice sear on each side of your meatballs, which is going to result in a beautiful golden brown color as such. Now, as you're cooking the meatballs, all of the onions are getting cooked. The meat is getting cooked. The flavor is literally seeping into each nook and cranny. These meatballs are so delicious. Definitely one of my favorite recipes. So we're going to sear these. We're going to get them browned on each side. And then after that, what we are going to do is pop it in the oven at 350 degrees and voila. The meatballs are done. You want to make sure you take these out and drain them on a paper towel to get rid of some of that excess oil. The next thing we're going to start with is our garlic knots, you guys. These are super simple. We're going to use the pre-made pizza dough. Just the same pizza dough that we use in our cinnamon roll recipe. I know it's unbelievable, but it's totally easy and such an amazing shortcut. So grab your pizza dough from the grocery store, and you can literally use it for so many things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray my baking pan so these do not stick with my baker's joy, which is just oil and flour. We're going to start with a stick of melted butter. The ingredients and the measurements are at the bottom of the screen, you guys, so you can follow along. We're going to add our garlic. We're also going to add our parsley, and we are going to add some Parmesan cheese as well. We're going to give this a mix, and this is going to be our butter and flavoring for our beautiful garlic knots. So what we have here is we have the pizza dough. So we're just going to cut little portions of the pizza dough, and we're literally going to tie the dough into a knot. It really couldn't get much simpler than this. I'll show you guys one more time tying the knot of the pizza dough. And again, when you cut the portions, make sure you're cutting long strips because, of course, it's just easier to tie. So go over, go under, pull that little knob through, and that is it. So guys, we're going to continue to make our garlic knots. We're going to fill our pan up here, and this is a 1 pound ball of pizza dough. We're going to use it all. Once we get that finished, we are going to generously brush our garlic butter over each of the little garlic knots. And they look small, you guys, but they do puff up just a bit in the oven. And we are literally going to continue to cover each of the garlic knots until we are complete. You want to bake these at 350 for 17 to 19 minutes, and they should come out nice and golden and delicious. Now I put all these into a bowl once they come out of the oven, and I'm going to put the rest of my garlic butter on top so that I can seep in all of those golden brown delicious nooks and crannies. But make sure that you put a piece of aluminum foil over these so they do not get hard. They stay nice and soft. Next, we want to build our baked spaghetti so we can get that in the oven, you guys. So we have our meatballs done, we have our garlic knots done, we have our spaghetti sauce done. So the only thing left to do is turn this into a cheesy baked spaghetti and meatballs. So again, I know you guys see a lot of ingredients, but I always have your back. I'm going to show you the ingredients at the bottom of the screen along with the measurements as we go. Now you do want a big bowl that you can work in, and also an oven safe dish. So we're going to go ahead and put in half of the pasta noodles from that full box that we boiled. We're going to add some sauce. Now guys, at this point it's totally your preference. You know, how little or how much sauce you want. I'll just kind of show you how I'm going to go about it. So each of these ladles is probably about 3/4 cups. So I'm going to add roughly 4 to 5 ladles of the sauce over half a pack of noodles. We're going to add in a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. We're going to add 1 cup of the Monterey and Colby Jack cheese, and we are going to give this a mix. Now, just looking at this, guys, it does not look like enough sauce to me for my personal preference. So I'm going to add more sauce to this just to make sure that once we bake it, it does not dry out. Because putting it in the oven is going to take away some of the moisture. So I want to make sure you guys keep that in mind. Of course, if we're going to add more sauce, I personally feel that we need to add more cheese. So we're going to hit it with another cup of the Colby and Monterey Jack cheese. Give that a mix, and you want to grab your oven safe dish because now it is time to layer your pasta. I like to layer my pasta with the cheeses just so that you get the beautiful cheese string pull, and of course you just get levels of cheese when you scoop it out and serve it to your guest or your family. So we're going to put a thin layer of the spaghetti on the bottom. On top of that, we have sliced mozzarella cheese, you guys. For this bacon dish, I'm probably going to use roughly 6 pieces of cheese. And then we're going to go ahead and layer another layer of the spaghetti and the sauce and the cheese mixture right on top of that. Now, everything you should still be working with hot sauce. So, of course, the cheese is already starting to melt, which is going to cut down on your baking time as well. At this point, guys, once you get a nice layer on top of that provolone cheese, you want to start arranging your meatballs into your dish. I like to drizzle just a little bit more sauce on top to kind of keep those meatballs nice and moisturized. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a half a pound of the mozzarella cheese shredded. And I like the creamy melt with the cream cheese. It just lends for a better, creamier texture on top. And we're going to add some more of our Monterey and Colby Jack. This is what's going to assist in a beautiful color on top of your spaghetti once it's done baking. So as you see, we're going to bake it at 350 for 15 to 20 minutes. And just like that, you guys, it comes out nice and beautiful and golden. We're going to add some fresh parsley on top. And in true Sprinkle Factory fashion, we are going to slow it down with the slow mode. And just like that, guys, dinner is served. We made these wonderful buttery garlic knots that I remember growing up as a child on in Long Island, New York, and my mom used to take me to the pizza parlor, and before we left, she made sure I had my garlic knots. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, send me pictures of your dishes, and as my grandma would always say, this dish is finger licking time. See y'all next time.